At my husband's funeral, I thought my world had ended. The church was filled with tears, whispers, and grief. But then, my phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. The words sent a chill through my spine. "I'm alive. Don't trust my brother." In that moment, everything I believed collapsed. Was my husband really dead? Or had I been living inside the darkest betrayal of my life? This isn't just a tragic love story. It's a shocking mystery, a story of family secrets, betrayal, and survival. Stay with me, because what started as the most painful day of my life turned into an unbelievable journey filled with suspense, shocking revelations, and a twist that no one saw coming. This is the story of how one text message changed everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and family. The church was drowning in silence. The kind of silence that isn't really silent at all. It was filled with muffled sobs, rustling of black clothing, and the heavy weight of grief pressing down on every single breath. I stood at the front, my hands trembling as I clutched the folded handkerchief, staring at the coffin that carried what everyone believed was my husband. This was supposed to be the final goodbye, the end of a tragic love story that had been cut short far too soon. The flowers surrounding the casket smelled too sweet, almost sickening against the bitterness in my heart. Every petal seemed like a cruel reminder of the man I had loved, the man I thought I knew better than anyone. The funeral was filled with friends, distant relatives, and people who spoke in hushed tones, speculating about the accident that had taken him away. Some whispered about how unfair it was. Others muttered suspicions they didn't dare say out loud. All I could hear, though, was the sound of my own heart breaking, over and over again. As I stood there, I couldn't stop replaying the last time I saw him. He had kissed me on the forehead, told me not to worry, and promised he would be home soon. But he never came back. Instead, police officers appeared at my door, their faces grim, their voices heavy, telling me my husband had died in a car crash. They said it was quick. They said he didn't suffer. But their eyes, something in their eyes told me there was more to the story. I tried to push the doubts aside. Funerals are for closure, not for questions. At least, that's what I told myself. But as the priest spoke about eternal rest and everlasting peace, I noticed something strange. My husband's brother. He wasn't crying. He wasn't even pretending to be sad. His eyes darted around the room, restless, sharp, like he was waiting for something, or hiding from someone. I had always felt tension between them, an unspoken rivalry. But today, his cold expression sent a shiver through me. People came up to me one by one, offering condolences, empty words that slipped past my ears without meaning. "Stay strong. He's in a better place. Time heals." But how could time heal when my life had just been ripped apart? Every touch, every hug, every polite smile only deepened the emptiness inside me. This wasn't just a funeral. It was the death of my future, the destruction of the family I thought I had. And yet, something inside me refused to fully believe it. Call it denial. Call it hope. Call it intuition. But deep in my gut, I felt a whisper that something wasn't right. His body had been burned too badly to view. The officials discouraged me from asking questions. His brother handled most of the arrangements, almost too eagerly. These weren't just coincidences. They were cracks in a story that was supposed to bring closure. But instead, it only brought confusion. As the service drew to a close, the choir's final hymn echoed through the church, solemn and haunting. People bowed their heads in prayer. I stared at the coffin, trying to summon the strength to say goodbye. My knees threatened to give way beneath me. My chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. This was supposed to be the end. The end of love, the end of trust, the end of everything. But fate had other plans. Because in that exact moment, my phone, hidden inside my clutch, buzzed. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just another message of sympathy. But something compelled me to look, and that's when everything I thought I knew shattered in an instant. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't family. It wasn't condolences. It was a text message from an unknown number. The words were simple, but they cut deeper than any blade. I'm alive. Don't trust my brother. The church spun around me. My breath caught in my throat. The coffin in front of me suddenly looked like a lie, a cruel stage for a performance I didn't understand. The whispers in my gut were no longer whispers, they were screams. The funeral was no longer a funeral. It was the beginning of a mystery, the unveiling of family secrets that would change my life forever. This wasn't the end of a tragic love story. It was the beginning of a suspenseful twist darker than anything I could have imagined. The moment the words appeared on my screen, I'm alive, don't trust my brother. Time itself seemed to fracture. The church, the mourners, the priest's solemn voice, they all faded into a blur of sound and shadow. My pulse roared in my ears like a thunderstorm. My hands shook so violently, I almost dropped the phone. I read the message again and again, hoping I had misread it, that grief was playing cruel tricks on my mind. But there it was, clear and undeniable. My husband was alive. The man we had buried, the man everyone was mourning, was telling me from beyond the grave not to trust his own brother. My knees buckled beneath me. I sank into the pew, clutching my phone as if it were the only lifeline left in a sea of grief. My heart screamed with a mix of emotions I couldn't untangle. Hope, fear, confusion, and something darker. Suspicion. Was this a cruel prank? Was someone trying to torment me? Or had the impossible become reality? The coffin at the front of the church suddenly looked sinister, not sacred. Was it empty? Or worse, was there someone else inside it? I wanted to run forward, tear off the lid, and demand the truth. But every eye in the church was still on me, expecting the widow to remain strong, dignified. They had no idea the ground beneath me had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. I slipped my phone into my lap, shielding it with trembling fingers, and stared at the screen. No name, no contact photo, just an unknown number. But the words, the rhythm, the way he phrased things, it was his. My husband's. I knew his voice even through text. Memories flooded back in waves. The way he would send me quick, cryptic messages just to make me smile. The way he always warned me to trust my instincts, to be careful of who I let too close. The man behind that text wasn't a stranger. It was him. It had to be. But if he was alive, then what was this funeral? Why had the police declared him dead? Why had his brother taken charge of everything so swiftly, so efficiently, almost like he wanted it buried, literally and figuratively? I glanced at my brother-in-law. He was standing stiffly, eyes fixed on the coffin, his jaw tight. For a moment, I thought he looked satisfied. It was subtle, hidden beneath a mask of grief, but there it was. The text replayed in my mind. Don't trust my brother. My blood ran cold. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers, but I couldn't, not yet. If my husband really was alive, then exposing my knowledge could put him in even greater danger. Whoever had staged this funeral, whoever wanted me to believe he was dead, was powerful enough to manipulate the police, the records, and an entire ceremony. This wasn't just bad luck or coincidence. This was deliberate. As the service ended, people began to leave, offering me hugs and whispered condolences. I forced myself to smile, to nod, to accept their pity like a mask I didn't want to wear. All the while, my mind raced. The message had cracked open the coffin of lies, and now I needed to dig deeper. That night, when the house finally emptied and I was left alone, I sat in the dark with only the glow of my phone. My fingers hovered over the screen, debating. Should I reply? What if it wasn't him? What if this was a trap? But silence was unbearable. My heart needed to know. So, with shaking hands, I typed, "If it's really you, prove it." Seconds turned into minutes. Minutes felt like hours. My body trembled with anticipation, fear, and a flicker of dangerous hope. Then, the screen lit up again. Another message. "Check the box under our bed. Only you know what's inside." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The box. A small wooden box where we kept our most private keepsakes. Love letters, photographs, little mementos of our life together. No one else knew about it. No one. It was him. It had to be him. Tears streamed down my face as relief and terror collided inside me. My husband was alive, but that meant everything else I had believed for the past few weeks was a lie. The police report, the funeral, the grief, it was all part of a story someone wanted me to accept without question. But why? And what role did his brother play in all of this? The truth was no longer just about grief. It was about survival. If my husband was hiding, if he was warning me not to trust his own flesh and blood, then the danger was closer than I wanted to admit. That text message had shattered the walls of reality, and in its place was a new world of betrayal, secrets, and shadows. A world where love and trust could no longer be taken at face value. A world where even family could be the enemy. This wasn't just grief anymore. This was a mystery thriller story, one that was only beginning to unfold. And deep down, I knew my life would never be the same again. From the very beginning, something about my husband's brother never sat right with me. But after the text message at the funeral, every glance, every gesture, every word from him became a puzzle piece in a much darker picture. He had always been polite on the surface, but there was a sharpness behind his smile, like a knife hidden in velvet. My husband used to say, "Don't take his kindness at face value. He plays the long game." I never understood what that meant until now. In the days after the funeral, I noticed how quickly he took control of everything. He handled the paperwork, the finances, even the arrangements for the burial plot. Everyone praised him for being responsible and supportive, but I saw it differently. It was almost as if he had been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it, ready to step into a role that wasn't rightfully his. At the wake, he never once shed a tear. While I drowned in grief, his eyes roamed the room, calculating, cold. When he thought no one was watching, I saw the corners of his mouth twitch upward, not in sadness, but in satisfaction. It was fleeting, but unmistakable. That look burned into my memory. And when I read my husband's warning, "Don't trust my brother," that image came roaring back. The more I thought about it, the more fragments of the past began to make sense. The late-night arguments between the two brothers, the way conversations would suddenly end when I entered the room, the financial tension, debts, business deals gone wrong that my husband never fully explained. There were family secrets buried beneath the surface, and his brother seemed to be at the center of them. One memory, in particular, haunted me. Months before the accident, I had overheard them arguing in the garage. My husband's voice was sharp, urgent. His brother's was cold, mocking. "You don't know who you're dealing with." my husband had shouted. "And you don't know how far I'm willing to go," his brother replied. At the time, I brushed it off as another sibling quarrel. But now? It sounded like a warning, a prophecy I had ignored. I started watching him more closely. When he visited me after the funeral, he would bring food, flowers, small tokens of support. But every visit felt like surveillance. His eyes scanned my house as though searching for something. He asked too many questions. Had I spoken to anyone? Had I gone through my husband's belongings? Did I still keep my husband's phone? The way he asked wasn't concern. It was interrogation. One evening, I caught him in the study when he thought I was asleep. He was going through drawers, flipping through papers, even checking the trash. When I confronted him, he laughed it off, claiming he was looking for a bill he had misplaced. But my husband's words echoed in my head. Don't trust my brother. That night, I locked the bedroom door for the first time. I slept with my phone clutched in my hand, waiting for another message. I needed guidance. I needed to know I wasn't imagining things. The next morning, another text arrived. He'll come for you if he suspects. Be careful. My blood ran cold. My husband wasn't just warning me about betrayal. He was warning me about danger. His brother wasn't simply hiding secrets. He was actively hunting for something. And whatever it was, it had to be worth more than blood, more than loyalty, more than family itself. Slowly, a picture formed in my mind. Maybe my husband hadn't died in an accident at all. Maybe he had staged his death to escape something or someone. And maybe his brother had helped cover it up, only to twist the story to his own advantage. The thought was unbearable, but every sign pointed back to the same truth. The man standing in my living room with a fake smile and crocodile tears was not a grieving brother. He was an enemy in disguise. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. Family was supposed to protect you, to stand by you in your darkest hours. But here I was, surrounded by shadows, realizing that the danger didn't come from strangers. It came from inside my own family. Every time I looked into his eyes, I felt the walls closing in. This wasn't just grief anymore. This was a dark family drama unfolding in real time. My husband was alive, hiding, and I was caught in the middle of a dangerous game between two brothers. One fighting to survive, and one willing to destroy everything to get what he wanted. And I knew, with chilling certainty, that I had to uncover the truth before it was too late. Because secrets like these don't stay buried forever. That night, after the warning message, he'll come for you if he suspects. Be careful. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My body begged for rest, but my mind raced too fast, weaving together fragments of memory, suspicion, and fear. If my husband was alive, then somewhere in this house, in our life together, there had to be proof. And if his brother was circling like a vulture, then time was running out. I started with the box under the bed. My hands trembled as I pulled it out, the familiar wooden lid carved with initials only the two of us knew. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside were love letters, photos of trips we never showed anyone, a pressed flower from our first anniversary. But at the very bottom, tucked beneath layers of paper, was something new, a folded envelope sealed with wax. My husband's handwriting scrawled across the front. Only open if you doubt everything. My heart pounded as I broke the seal. Inside were bank statements, receipts, and photocopies of documents I didn't understand. Offshore accounts, wire transfers, money moving in and out of places I'd never even heard of, hidden business dealings. The numbers were dizzying, but the truth was clear. My husband had been living a double life. It wasn't just grief anymore. It was a revelation. a shocking discovery that turned my marriage into a puzzle I had never truly solved. Why would he hide this from me? And more importantly, who else knew? The pieces began connecting in terrifying ways. His brother's obsession with the paperwork, his constant questions about my husband's belongings. He wasn't just snooping, he was hunting for these exact documents. Whatever my husband had been involved in, his brother wanted control of it. But the envelope wasn't the only clue. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Look behind the painting in the study. My hand shook as I pulled the frame off the wall. Behind it, taped to the plaster, was a small flash drive. My breath caught in my throat. Plugging it into my laptop felt like stepping off a cliff, but I had no choice. What I found was worse than I could have imagined. Videos, secret recordings, my husband meeting with men in expensive suits in dimly lit rooms, conversations about money, shipments, and threats that made my blood run cold. And then, one recording stood out, a confrontation between him and his brother. "You'll never survive this without me," his brother hissed. "I don't need survival if it means becoming like you," my husband shot back. The screen went black, but the meaning was crystal clear. This wasn't just a family feud, this was a war, and I had been blind to it all along. Tears stung my eyes as I realized the truth. My husband hadn't faked his death out of selfishness. He had done it to protect me. By vanishing, he was trying to keep me out of the line of fire. But somehow, I was still caught in the middle. I thought about going to the police, but the memory of their rehearsed expressions when they told me about his death made me hesitate. What if they were in on it? What if the reach of this family drama extended further than I could imagine? The house felt different after that. Every shadow looked like danger. Every knock on the door sent my pulse skyrocketing. His brother's face haunted me, smiling, calculating, patient. He knew something was here. He just didn't know I had found it first. I clutched the flash drive to my chest. It wasn't just evidence. It was a lifeline, a breadcrumb trail leading me closer to the truth. My husband's messages weren't random. They were guiding me, step by step, toward uncovering the web of lies that surrounded us. But with each clue came more questions. If my husband was alive, where was he hiding? How long could he stay in the shadows before his brother found him? And most importantly, why did the betrayal run so deep? I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was unraveling a mystery thriller story, and every answer I uncovered only led to more secrets. The love of my life had been living in a world of shadows, and now I was being dragged into it too. The trail of hidden clues wasn't just leading me to him. It was pulling me into a storm I might not survive. And yet, I couldn't stop. Because buried in those secrets was the truth. And the truth was the only thing that could save us both. For days, I carried the envelope and flash drive like contraband, hidden in the lining of my purse. Every time I heard a car door slam outside or the creak of footsteps on my porch, my heart leapt into my throat. I knew it was only a matter of time before he came. My husband's brother was circling closer, and the walls of safety around me were collapsing fast. I didn't have to wait long. It was late evening when he showed up at my door unannounced, carrying a bottle of wine like it was a gift of peace. His smile was polished, but his eyes betrayed him, sharp, hunting, full of calculation. "I thought you shouldn't be alone tonight," he said smoothly, brushing past me before I could protest. His presence filled the room like smoke, suffocating and impossible to escape. I watched him carefully as he settled into the armchair, pouring 2 glasses of wine as though he owned the place. My skin crawled. The way his eyes scanned the shelves, the photographs, the corners of the room, it wasn't comfort he sought. It was confirmation. He was searching for something. "You've been quiet," he remarked, sipping slowly. "Have you come across anything of his? Papers, perhaps?" He was always careless with details. My blood turned to ice. He was fishing, just as I had suspected. The documents, the flash drive, he wanted them. And if my husband's warnings were true, he wouldn't stop until he had them, no matter what it cost. I forced myself to stay calm. "I've been too busy grieving to go digging through old files," I lied, hoping my voice didn't betray the pounding of my heart. His lips curled into a half-smile. "Good. Let the past stay buried. It's better that way." The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. That was when I decided I couldn't play this game anymore. The truth, sharp and suffocating, pressed against my chest until I couldn't hold it in. I stood, my hands trembling. "You knew, didn't you?" I whispered, his brow furrowed in mock confusion. "Knew what?" "That he's alive." For a heartbeat, the room was silent. His mask cracked, just barely. But it was enough. The flicker of shock in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. I pressed on, my voice rising. "You staged everything. The funeral, the police report. You wanted me to believe he was gone. But he isn't, is he? He's alive, and you've been lying to me from the start." His glass clinked against the table as he set it down, his expression hardening into something colder than I'd ever seen. Gone was the fake sympathy, the smooth words. What replaced it was raw, unveiled contempt. "You should have left it alone," he said quietly, dangerously. I took a step back, my pulse racing. "Why? So you could keep his secrets? Or steal them for yourself? What did you do to him?" The smirk that spread across his face chilled me to the bone. "He was weak, always chasing ideals, always trying to play the hero. He never had the stomach for what needed to be done. But me? I don't hesitate." The confession hit like a blade. Family betrayal revealed, laid bare in the dim light of my living room. My husband's own brother had orchestrated it all. His disappearance, the lies, the false grief. I clenched my fists, my body trembling with rage and fear. "You betrayed him. You betrayed all of us." He leaned forward, his eyes burning. "Betrayal? No. Survival. Everything he built, everything he hid. It belongs to me now. And if you're smart, you'll hand it over." My throat tightened. The flash drive in my purse felt like it was on fire, its weight unbearable. He didn't know I had it, yet. But if I slipped, if he realized, there would be no going back. Summoning every ounce of strength, I met his gaze. "You'll never get it." The room erupted with silence so thick it felt like a scream. His jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists. For the first time, I saw the mask of civility fully fall away. What sat before me was no longer family. It was an enemy, ruthless and unrelenting. And in that moment, I understood what my husband had meant in his messages. This wasn't about money or power alone. This was about survival. The confrontation had stripped away all illusions. The brother I once thought was simply cold, distant, maybe resentful, had revealed himself as a predator, circling patiently until the moment to strike. But he had underestimated one thing: me. I wasn't the grieving widow he expected me to be. I was no longer blinded by sorrow or confusion. Now, I was armed with truth, and truth was the most dangerous weapon of all. As he left that night, his final words lingered in the air like a curse. "Don't stand in my way, or you'll regret it." but deep inside, I knew this battle was only just beginning. The night after the confrontation, I could barely breathe. His words, cold, threatening, final, echoed in my ears long after he slammed the door shut. The house felt unsafe, like every wall had ears, like every shadow was a trap waiting to close in. My husband's brother knew more than he admitted, and now he knew that I knew. The line between predator and prey was blurring, and I didn't know which side I was on anymore. But then, everything changed. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't hesitate. My hands shook as I grabbed it, desperate for his words. "It's time. Meet me at the cabin." My breath caught. The cabin, a place tucked away in the woods where we used to escape for weekends, where no one else ever went. The thought sent 1,000 emotions surging through me. Hope, terror, disbelief. Could it really be him? Was this the moment of the shocking comeback I had prayed for? I drove through the night, the road blurring under my headlights, every mile heavy with suspense. The forest swallowed me whole as I turned onto the dirt path. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly, my knuckles ached. At the end of the road, the cabin stood silent, cloaked in shadows, just as I remembered. I stepped out of the car, my heart racing so violently I thought it might break through my ribs. The night was silent, except for the chirp of crickets and the pounding in my ears. I approached the door, my breath shallow, my fingers trembling as I pushed it open. And then I saw him, alive, standing there in the dim light, thinner than I remembered, his face lined with exhaustion, but unmistakably his. My husband. For a moment, the world froze. The grief, the lies, the fear, they all collided into one overwhelming wave as tears streamed down my face. I stumbled forward, and he caught me in his arms. The warmth of his embrace, the familiar rhythm of his heartbeat, shattered the walls I had built around my pain. "You're alive," I whispered, the words breaking as they left my lips. "I had to disappear," he said, his voice hoarse, heavy with regret. "It was the only way to keep you safe." I pulled back, searching his eyes for the truth. "Safe from what? From him?" He nodded. "My brother. He's not who you think he is. He's been involved in things darker than you can imagine." I tried to stop him, tried to pull away, but when I found out what he planned to do, he made me a target. The accident, the funeral, it was all a setup. If I hadn't vanished, you'd be standing over my real grave right now. The weight of his words crushed me. Betrayal wasn't just a wound. It was a battlefield, and his brother had declared war long before I ever realized it. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "Why let me believe you were dead?" His eyes filled with tears. "Because if you knew, he would have come for you. He would have used you to get to me. I thought distance would protect you. I never wanted you to be dragged into this dark family drama." Anger and relief twisted inside me, a storm of emotions I couldn't control. "But I was dragged in. He came to me. He wanted your secrets. He wanted everything." My husband's jaw tightened. "That's why I called you here. I can't run anymore. If I don't stop him now, he'll destroy both of us." The flash drive in my purse felt like a living thing, pulsing with danger. I pulled it out, placing it in his hand. "He's looking for this. He thinks he can control everything you built." He stared at it, his expression dark. "This isn't just money. It's evidence. Proof of everything he's done. If we can get this to the right people, we can end this." But even as he spoke, a shiver ran down my spine. The confrontation hadn't ended at my house. It had only begun. His brother wasn't the kind of man to let go. If he had followed me, if he knew about the cabin, then this reunion wasn't just a miracle. It was a trap waiting to snap shut. I clung to my husband, torn between joy and terror. The man I thought I'd lost forever was alive, but the cost of knowing the truth was higher than I'd ever imagined. This was the unbelievable twist ending I never saw coming. My husband alive, the lies exposed, the betrayal revealed. But it wasn't the end. It was the climax of a storm that hadn't finished raging. As dawn crept through the trees, he whispered, "Whatever happens next, we face it together." And for the first time since that funeral, I believed him. The sunrise that morning was unlike any I had ever seen. Golden light filtered through the trees around the cabin, washing away the shadows of the night before. My husband sat across from me, alive, breathing, real, and yet the weight of what we had endured lingered between us. His brother's betrayal, the lies, the fake funeral, the terrifying messages. It all felt like a nightmare that had rewritten the story of our lives. But as I stared at him, I realized something powerful. Survival wasn't just about escaping danger. It was about facing the truth, no matter how painful, and finding strength in the ruins. In the days that followed, we worked together like two soldiers rebuilding after a war. We carefully sorted through the evidence, the documents, the recordings, the flash drive, preparing to deliver them to people we could trust. Not the police, not the officials his brother had in his pocket, but to independent journalists and investigators who couldn't be bought. It was risky, but it was the only way to make sure the truth saw the light of day. Every step was terrifying, but also strangely liberating. For years, I had lived in the comfort of ignorance, believing my life was whole. Now, stripped of illusions, I was stronger than I had ever been. Betrayal hadn't destroyed me. It had carved me into someone new. There were nights when I broke down, when the memories of the funeral replayed in my head, when I remembered the suffocating grief of thinking he was gone forever. But each time, my husband held me close and whispered, "We survived. Together, we survived." And I realized that survival wasn't just his story. It was mine too. The hardest part wasn't the fear, it was the healing. How do you heal from loving someone who lied to protect you? How do you rebuild trust when the foundations were shattered? Slowly, piece by piece, we began to answer those questions. We talked. Long, painful conversations filled with tears and silences. We admitted the secrets, the mistakes, the regrets, and in that raw honesty, we discovered something unexpected. Our love was flawed, but it was real. It had weathered death, betrayal, and fear. And now, it was growing back stronger, rooted in truth. Looking back, I realized the life lessons learned weren't about uncovering hidden accounts or exposing a corrupt brother. They were about resilience, about finding strength in the darkest places, about understanding that sometimes the people we love protect us in ways we may never understand until the storm has passed. The emotional ending of this story wasn't in revenge or justice. It was in survival. His brother's empire crumbled once the truth came out, but I didn't feel triumph. What I felt was release. The chains of secrets that had bound us were finally broken, and for the first time in years, I could breathe freely. One evening, as we sat on the porch of the cabin, the woods quiet around us, my husband asked, "If you could go back, would you want it all to be different?" I thought about it, about the pain, the fear, the grief, about the nights I thought I had lost him forever. And then I shook my head. "No," I said softly. Because everything we went through led us here. And here is real. Here is honest. Here is us. That was the moment I knew the journey hadn't broken me. It had transformed me. This was no longer just a tale of betrayal. It was a powerful storytelling of survival, of healing, of moving forward after being shattered. It was an inspirational journey I never asked for, but one that taught me the deepest truths about life and love. Yes, the scars remain. I still wake up some nights, gasping from dreams of the funeral, of the confrontation, of the fear that nearly consumed me. But then I feel his hand in mine, steady and warm, and I know I am not alone. The greatest lesson I learned is this: life doesn't give us guarantees. People we trust may betray us. Those we love may vanish. The ground beneath us may crumble without warning. But within that chaos, there is always the chance to rise, to survive, and to begin again. And so, as the chapter of this dark family drama closed, another began. A chapter not of secrets, but of truth. Not of fear, but of resilience. Not of endings, but of survival. Because in the end, this wasn't just a survival story. It was a rebirth. And though the road ahead will never be simple, I carry the knowledge that no matter what comes, I will face it. Not with fear, but with the unshakable strength of someone who has already faced death, betrayal, and loss, and has learned how to live again.